Thanks, Dan. Welcome to the February Linux Users Group meeting. I believe Leander does have a short presentation for us today, so I'm going to yield the floor to him, and then we'll move on to other things.
Okay, well, I guess I'll start. I've got a few slides here, and then we'll kind of jump into like a couple of quick demos of doing this. Let's see, start. Let's see, I kind of just shared that, and nope, it's not. Choose a different window. Is that the right one? There we go. Okay, that's the presentation. All right. It did not go through. Let's see. Start screen sharing. There we go. All right, that worked that time. All right, so I lately partially out of some employment encouragement and just some of my own personal elucidation. I've been pursuing open source large language models and running them locally and whatnot. So I got a short presentation, especially with all the news around DeepSeek and things like that. And Dan brought up the getting into the app. I wanted to show that you actually don't need the app. You don't need to send your data anywhere. You can just run it locally and go. Sam has a question. Or did you hit a button accidentally, Sam? And you're muted, yeah. See. I don't know if maybe he hit the button accidentally. I guess maybe that was it. Feel free to speak up if you. I don't hear everyone else can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Reports. I'll let them know in chat. Reports. They can hear. It looks like he left, I think. Maybe he's having some audio issues. Okay. Well, anyway, so I'm just going to go through a few slides here to kind of get some foundational information there, and then we'll hop into the demo. I'm not thinking more than 30 minutes, so should leave plenty of time for other things. Let's see here. First, a bit of a disclaimer. I do remain a bit dubious about the utility of these tools. Personally, I don't find them that useful. I've tried them in a few different applications. Again, I see businesses are using them. Companies are wanting you to know how to use them and work with them. I've still got about 20 years before I can really retire, so I've got to learn. I think they should be used with caution. I'm very, especially after seeing how young people use them, I think it's going to be problematic when we start outsourcing thinking like this. The red letters are really what I want to hit here is never trust what the bot tells you as an absolute truth. And an LLM of any kind is not an excuse to turn your brain off. And I see this more in younger people than I do in experienced people. And again, this is my calculator analogy. I've heard pro AI people say, oh, it's just like people who are scared of the calculator. I don't think that's quite correct because calculators do not try to convince you of the state of the universe. It just gives you a number, and it's up for you to use your brain to put that in context and decide if it makes sense. The LLMs do a lot to try to convince you that they are right, and even if they are not. And this doesn't even get into the intellectual property licensing and outright blatant copying of GPL code that's not been attributed and other writing and stuff like that went into the training of these things. So with that said, let's get into it. What is an LLM? A machine learning model. It is basically it is a predictive model that they feed it a bunch of data. You ask it a question. It kind of uses a neural network to decide what word to put next. They are trained on massive amounts of data. If you run a website of any kind, you'll probably have seen that your site is being continuously scraped by these companies now. Like before I put in some bot blocking on my Nginx configs, and we did the same thing at work with Cloudflare, like upwards of 80-90% was just AI companies scraping data. They do train it. Most contemporary models are based on Google's 2017 Transformers paper, not the robots, but it's a method for training a machine learning. Steve, you got a question? I think you're muted, Steve.
There. Just so if I wasn't aware that there was that degree of continual scraping, is that going to affect performance? In other words, is that basically interfering with me, or is it done in a way that is superficially silent unless I'm carefully checking performance aspects?
The performance of your system. So if you're running a website, are you concerned about it impacting the performance of your website?
Well, if I'm actually just visiting, or doing something, not running it myself, not a server, but as a client.
We have experienced that at work. Our in-house documentation has been hit by these bots several times, and we've had to keep making Cloudflare more paranoid. And users, we notice it happening. Well, first of all, because the monitoring goes crazy. All the CPUs go up to 100%. And you just look in the logs and you see a bunch of stuff you see a bunch of bots rolling past, but users do report it being slow, not responsive, and things like that. Yeah, so it can degrade service depending on the site.
And you mentioned using tools. So at some point, maybe after the speech, but as a follow-up, if you could mention any tools that a humble newbie could use to try to block a bit of that.
Okay. Yeah, I've got there's a Nginx, there's a script that does that. So yeah, I can go over that. But yeah, those are good questions. And there's a little humor here. I haven't tried Copilot too much. My boss's boss is big into it. I haven't heard anything terribly good about it. And GitHub here is saying we train Copilot on your code. That's why it sucks. Anyway. Llama and open source LLMs. OLlama is a program that allows you to interact with your LLM models. It's MIT licensed. It's open source. It's on GitHub. It's available for Linux, Mac, and Windows. I've been running it on Linux and Mac. Windows, I guess it works. It's got support for, you can download the Llama models from Meta, DeepSeek R1, 5.4 from Microsoft. There's a bunch of other ones. There's even some multimodal vision ones that will, you can pass it an image and it'll describe the image to you. The real advantage here is there's no app, there's no account, and there's no data leaving your system. You can literally download the program, install it, tell it to download the models, unplug your system from the network, and it will still work. DeepSeek R1. This is what Dan was talking about in the email. It's a newly released model. You can get a mobile phone app for it and talk to their servers, but they open source the model, and it's available in OLlama and other places. It's one of these so-called reasoning models, in that it kind of thinks, and I'll show you how it does that. It's released by a Chinese startup. The secret sauce on this one is that is huge efficiency gains over other models. Smaller parameter versions like the 8 billion, the 8B and the 14B models can be run on relatively modest hardware. I'm going to put some caveats there. I'm a big spender on hardware because this is my job, and I do some testing and stuff. What I consider modest hardware may not be what other people consider modest hardware. I consider like a 3-year-old i7 to be modest hardware, and that's when I'm running it on. My mini PC in the basement is a 12th gen i7. There's been some accusations about censorship with this. And that's a valid criticism. I will say that other models are censored in other ways. ChatGPT has its own biases kind of spun into it. And that's the other danger with these, is they have biases and whatnot. Spun into it by its creators too. So keep that in mind when asking for information. The local version does not seem to be censored as heavily. If you use the app, which I have not used the app, I see people saying that if you ask it about the thing in the TM and squared in 1989, it'll be like, oh, I can't talk about it. But if you ask the local version here, it'll actually kind of give you at least an attempt at like a thing about what happened there. So it doesn't seem to be as influenced as heavily. Why is this important? Open source models, are not held hostage by big tech. And I work in this field. I've got about 20 more years of work, and it's been constant, just AI companies calling management and going, we could replace your engineers with our AI and all this other stuff. And that's, there's a lot of hubbub around layoffs because people are using AI more. How true is all of that? I'm dubious on that, but you can be darn sure that the companies are going to try it. So this puts the power back into the local admin's hands, to the local users' hands. It also lowers the cost for if you have a small business or something and you want to run one of these. You don't have to pay the Silicon Valley. They love their forever recurring subscriptions, the Adobe model. So you can download the model and have it locally and don't have to worry about it. Excuse me. Thought I was going to sneeze there. It democratizes the technology. So since you can download these, you can tune them with sufficient compute power. You can tune them on your own data. It makes it just more available and more widely accessible. I mean, seriously, these guys are the worst. They're looking to like vacuum up all of your data and then vacuum up all of your resources and your, they want you to live in a 300 square foot, shack and be forever beholden to their little empire. And we have Sam Altman here, the CEO of OpenAI and winner of the 2024 Most Punchable Face Award. So I would liken DeepSeek probably to Torvalds releasing the kernel as open source and a GPL2 in the 90s, and that, and a few years after that, commercial Unixes started, Unixes, I don't know how to parable of that, started really declining in usage. Windows NT server became more of a niche product. It really shook up the whole scene there. So I think DeepSeek is going to end up kind of being one of those watershed moments that people point to as, okay, this stopped being a way for Silicon Valley to extract resources from everybody else and everything, and became a more tool for average people. All right, I'm going to switch screen sharing now. Any questions before I do that?
Yes, Rusty here.
Yeah.
Leander, I didn't get in note taking for the application that started with an L I'm trying to understand that can you repeat how that application operates locally to allow you to interact with what I thought were some online AI platforms?
Rusty, we're gonna demo that, and the name is O-Llama. It actually starts with an O. I'll type it in chat.
Okay.
O-Llama. The model name, there's an AI model from Facebook called Llama. That's a different thing. So I'm gonna start this screen share here and start screen sharing window. Nope. Entire screen. Can I just share that 27 inch there? There we go. Okay. All right. So over here I have a web browser and a terminal, which is basically, I guess, what most of us live out of these days. So the first thing you're going to need to use this is O-Llama, which you go to ollama.com. It's on GitHub and everything. And there's a giant download button here. For Linux, they want you to run this script. I am not a fan of those. I don't like those. Hey, just curl this script and run it on your system. And especially because if you view the script source, it's a several hundred line script that's mod probing things and all sorts of other stuff. So I'm generally not a fan of that, but you can run it if you want. I went to the manual install instructions here, and I just grabbed. You can just grab the tar.gz file, so you can just wget that or open that in Firefox and download it. But I've already downloaded it to save time because it's about 1 gigabyte. The Ollama program is about 1 gigabyte in size. And I'm going to blow this text up here. Can everyone see the text in the terminal okay? I'm not hearing any complaints.
Yeah, I can see it fine.
Okay. I might scoot it over a little here. Kind of split my windows. So yeah, we see we've got the tar.gzip file here for Ollama. So the way I install this on my desktop, tar.xf Ollama C. I actually need to put a sudo on that. Sudo and user local Ollama, and type in the password here. Maybe I get it right on the first time. Oh, right, I need to make that directory. And then we'll go up and do that. I installed it so I could do it from scratch and show you guys how to do it. The only thing I did keep around, I'm going to split my terminal here while that's doing it, is when you install on your desktop, it puts a directory here, .ollama, which has your models in it. And the models are quite large. I've got 63 gigs worth of models installed. So just in the interest of saving time, I went ahead and kept those around so we didn't sit here waiting for 40 gigs of models to go download. Dan, you got a question?
Yeah. Do you have to have a lot of GPU to run this?
You do not, actually. The mini PC that I'm going to run on my desktop here, but the mini PC that I'm actually logged into here downstairs is a Core i7 mobile processor with an integrated GPU, just the Intel video, and it runs the 14B model. The 14B is serviceable on here, but the 8B model is definitely usable without a GPU.
Good. Thank you.
So I'm just going to do a quick sudo ln-s because to put it in my path, local llama bin Ollama, user local bin. Steve.
Quick question.
Yeah.
What's the Alma Linux Raspberry Pi? You're not doing this on a Raspberry Pi, are you?
No. You could if you had a Raspberry Pi. They've got an NPU, a neural processing unit hat for that, and I think Jeff Geerling actually ran it on a Raspberry Pi with a GPU. You can get like a PCIe breakout board for them and run a GPU. I would just get an x86 mini PC for this. No, but that's on all of the Linux on Raspberry Pi is a different thing. That's become my favorite Raspberry Pi OS. But so all right, so I made a symlink to my path, so now it is here. And so since I've already installed models, I can Ollama list. I need to Ollama serve first. So first you need to run it. So Ollama serve, and it's going to go ahead and go out. And you can see here it has found my GPU right here. I'm running a 7900 RX 7900 XT in here with 20 gigs of VRAM. So it's found that and is happy. So I'm going to come down here to the second window and we will do Ollama list. And there you go. It says it's all the models I have listed installed. If you want to install a new model, you go to ollama.com, and in the hamburger menu here, we've got models, and it's got a bunch of them listed. So like under DeepSeek R1, there are different versions of it. There's the 1.5B, the 7B, the 14B, 32B, and they're each one, as you go up in number, it's more parameters, and the model is physically larger, right? So this machine here is a AMD Threadripper with a 7900. I can run the 32B model comfortably here. But you can select here from the drop down which one you want to run. And so if you want to run the 1.5B, which that is only 1 gig, so I can start that. You can just copy this command here, Olama run DeepSeek and the version, and paste that into your terminal, and not paste extra characters like I just did. And it's going to go ahead and pull it in just like a package manager, right? So this is just like apt-get or apt or DNF if you're a Red Hat user. So it's going to grab it. And do its thing, and success. So now you can see the Olama server there is doing its thing. So we can say, so now we can talk to it. Hello, what is the airspeed of an unladen swallow? Oops, if I can type. And so I'll blow that up. So DeepSeek has these think tags. So this here is it's here showing you its process for thinking, for like what it's trying to do. And then after the ending of the think tag, it gives you its answer. So you can see the process it took. If you want to, let me hide that so I can actually see my window. You just do the by command. It closes out. Now, if I do the Olama list command again, you can see the 1.5 B model installed. The more parameters you have, the better the model is, the more accurate it's going to be, the more knowledge it's going to have, right? But the harder it is to run. So I'm going to run the 32B on this machine. It's not going to have to download it. It's already got it. Steve.
Very simple question. When you say parameters, what does that correspond to in regular English?
That is, I guess, a measurement of how much data it has, is the best way to explain that, I think.
Okay, because I understand the term parameter generally might be used for, types of different things. We might be looking at weight or height of a person or their IQ. But not so much the amount of data about the IQ, height, or weight. I'm
kind of a novice at the training side of this. I've been experimenting with that, but it's basically the way that the amount. So you build the big model, and then you kind of distill it down from there, and so the smaller versions are distilled from the larger versions, and so they have less information in them, I guess, or less nodes to connect with. Steve, is the same? Oh, okay, you're good. All right, you just hit the button again. All right, so this is the 32-bit model, and this has a history just like every other terminal, so you can just use the up arrow and interact with it. And as you can see, the more parameters you have, the slower it goes. So you saw how fast the 1.5B went. This one here is a good bit slower, but it's also more knowledgeable. You can see it's actually trying to think about airspeed. I can show you let me see here. I can see, does glances show you that?
Leander, what is the question that you posed to the application to start all of this regurgitation that's going on?
So that right here is, Rusty, if you look at my screen, I said, hello, what is the airspeed of an unladen swallow? And
okay, that's way up at the top somewhere.
So you just type it in. It's just like a terminal application. And so it does that. You can also ask it, pretty much any question. But you can see here, so if you look here at the glances I brought up, You can see it does really hit the GPU. So if I ask it, I was trying to think, is there any questions from the peanut gallery? Anybody want to ask this thing something? No? Okay. We can ask it, let's create a systemd unit for an engine, we'll say for a MariaDB server located at user local bin MariaDB on CentOS 8. Or I guess, yeah, that doesn't exist anymore. We'll say Rocky, let's say Debian 12. There you go. So it's going to sit there and do that, and you can see while it's thinking, it is really hitting the GPU. There's another tool I like to use. Oop, you can cancel it out. NVTop. Here, that'll show the, this is, you can see the GPU usage starts to go up. Really, the VRAM is the, there we go. The VRAM is the thing here that it really wants. We're using 9.19 to load this model. I'm running 19 gigs of VRAM full. So that's what I say. The bigger the model, the more RAM you need. Okay, we're going to stop that. And I'm going to quit. Nope. Bye. Yes. Steve, once again.
First of all, VRAM I associate with video RAM, like in the same universe with GPUs and all, that they have more power. Is that why it's using VRAM?
Yes. So if you have a system with a style GPU, I have AMD's ROCm Radeon Open Compute module on here. It will use the VRAM. If you don't have that, if you don't have an NVIDIA card and an AMD card, it'll use the system RAM. So, and I'll get into that on the other machine. So, this is all well and good.
Leander?
Yeah.
One kind of comment. I'm very sensitive to the terms like artificial intelligence and related terms like thinking or reflecting. I think those are used by the companies involved, and it's really a bias and intending to confirm the idea that these are really machines which have mastered the art of thinking, reflecting, and they're, you can trust them. I try to cleanse my language for that reason.
Yeah, I try not to refer to these as AI. They are a specific type of machine learning. Is probably the more, because they use neural networks, which is a whole subject inside of computer science where you basically have one black box that does something and then feeds another black box. It's supposed to model neurons. It's supposed to be a model of a neuron in like a human brain, but they use the think tag here as a way to show and I don't know if it's just like its searching process, its process of rattling through its data and trying to conglomerate an answer together. That's what the think tag is telling you.
Might be better to say calculating.
Yeah. Pete.
I have a question to ask it.
Okay.
What are the last 8 digits of pi?
They're probably
It's gonna bomb out on that one.
Yeah. Well, it'll probably tell you it's an irrational number. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm just curious. That's good.
Yep.
It's more than that. It's a transcendental number, but that's okay.
Yep. So it'll tell you why it can't do that.
Right.
Okay.
There are no last 8 digits of pi. There you go. So that didn't trip it up.
I have a question, Leander. Can you ask it what a transitional number is?
Let's see.
Because at least someone knows what it is. Dan knows what it is.
Never heard of it. Transitional number?
Yeah, you said it, Dan.
No, transcendental number.
Oh, transcendental. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, what is the transcendental number?
Well, let's get the web interface installed and ask it some questions. So this text interface here is is well and good, but it may not be the way you want to interact with it. I'm gonna close this here. There is a project called Open Web UI, and it's on GitHub here, and it is basically a web GUI for these things. You can also use the ChatGPT API for this as well. But I don't know why you want to do that. You just use their web interface. But you can run it in Docker or the Python virtual environment. So, and that's what I usually do. So what I'm going to do here is create, and bring this up to the top, Python -m v and virtual environments, and we'll call this web UI2. All right. And then I'm going to activate that virtual environment. So we use source, virtual environment web UI2, then activate, and it's activated there. And so I like to do this because it creates like a little container, a little Python container that you can install it from. So then after you do that, you just use the pip, package manager in Python here, and let it go out. Web UI. Why does it not find that? Let's do pip install upgrade. Maybe it's just not. Oh, I wonder if did I version. Okay, I'm on 3.13 there. Let me see, v and dev, source, virtual environment, web, open web UI, then activate, Python, I forgot. Okay, yeah, it does not like Python version 3.13. I keep closing that. All right, so we're going to, if you want to get rid of a Python virtual environment, you just kill it like that, and then we're just going to do Python 3.12. And if I'm running Fedora, which has multiple versions of Python installed, your distribution, Debian, doesn't have this issue. Source, virtual dev, so in activate, and then we're just going to do pip install open web UI. There you go. It's going to go fetch it and install it. And you can run this on your desktop here. This is a very lightweightish application. Like I said, you can run it through Docker if you want. And I actually have it running here. This is set up already via my mini PC, which I can SSH into. Kill that. That's not what I wanted. Let's see here. This is another SSH window. So I'm going to SSH into that machine. And this is a mini PC I have in my basement that is I bought for like running VMs and stuff like that. It doesn't have a GUI on it. It is a Core i7. Where does it say that? On top, maybe. There we go. It's a Core i7 1265H, which I think is a 60-watt processor. It's the mobile CPU. It doesn't have a GPU, and so it is. Way I have it set up, I also have Llama installed on here, just like I did on my desktop. Oh, Llama. So, you know, it's there. The only difference is I keep the models here, and you can see again, not as many of them as on my desktop because this machine can't run the larger ones. But I also have Etsy, System D, System. I've created a couple of System D units. So Olama will start on boot. So, you know, it's just a single command here. I added an Olama user and made its home this user local Olama. You could pass it environment variables. So this tells Ollama that the models are stored here. And I created one for Open Web GUI, and it's the same thing. I just have it stored there in a Python virtual environment, and it started. And you can check that sudo systemctl status Open Web GUI, and type in the password. And we have it. That's what's running here. You could front it with Nginx. I'm having some issues with that because this makes copious use of WebSockets, and passing that from behind an Nginx proxy is a little weird. So I just VPN into my home network, and I can use it over port 8080. So that's what's running here. Oh, it looks like our download is finished. Okay, so if we wanted to run it on my desktop here, so I'll show you just to show you the process here. Now from the virtual environment, we launch a open web UI, dash web UI serve, and it starts up and goes there, and it puts it on port 8080. So I'm gonna do localhost 8080, and yep, it shows you through a process here. We're just going to make a test user, test at example.com. I guess if you have it online, you can use the email address to email new users, but I'm just going to blow this installation away when I'm done. So password is super secret. It's ABC1234. Yay. All right. And just like in the command line, I have the models. I have access to those here. So I've got Llama 3.3, which is the Facebook meta model. I've got the 32B. So you can ask it questions here in a web GUI. So I'm going to do, just for comparison's sake, I'm going to do that's the 7B or the 8B. So I'm going to ask it, let's ask it, can you create a short program to read in a list of files in a directory and print that list? And this is, so here, this picks up on the thinking tag and tells you that. And so there you go. It just shot out a simple Python program. And just like with other web GUIs, you can, this conversation you can save. So it'll save this conversation in between logins and running of this program. You can archive it. You can download it in a PDF document or a plain text document. So this just makes it more usable. Steve, once again.
When you use the web GUI, I'm assuming this is basically you're contributing to the data that whoever is supporting the web is collecting.
No, this is running on my machine. This is running here. I could unplug from the network. I don't want to do it because I would disconnect this call, but you can unplug from the network and this will work just fine. I was
okay, so this is a downloadable GUI.
This is all, yeah, this is running on, I don't know, maybe you can't see it there, but it says localhost. That's running localhost.
Gotcha.
Yep.
I couldn't see that. I didn't realize that. Yeah, thank you.
Yep. And this one here, so we have this web GUI, and again, when you're done with it, you just Control-C it. And so we can compare it to Llama. This is Llama 3.3. This is Facebook's. You can start a new chat with that here. And, you can ask it the same question. Can you create a program to read a list of files and print those back? And you can see how much slower the Facebook model is here. And I can hear my fans spinning up right now. This is DeepSeek secret sauce. It's still doing its thing. In fact, here we can fire up NVTop. I mean, it is. There we go. There we go. You can see how much slower and less responsive Llama 3.3 is. Llama 3.3 does seem to have more knowledge of like Western internet stuff, like some of the pop culture questions I was hitting DeepSeek with just to see what they had stripped out of it. it didn't really know some things. So but Llama did. So it's kind of useful to have both. There is also, so if you're asking a question and you're like, okay, I'm bored now, you can tell it to stop. You can also install new models from this web interface. So right now we've got 3.3 latest. We want to add a model, search a model. So we can go to back to the website here and we can look, maybe we want 3.2, which is a smaller model and a little bit faster maybe for us. So we can just copy this command here and paste it into Open Web UI and pull up, and it'll give us an option to pull Llama 3.2. And it's going to do that. So we'll let it do its thing, but it'll download it and launch a new session running Llama 3.2. All right. Just for the sake of comparison, so you saw my System D stuff. So this is always running on my little box downstairs. This desktop uses a lot of power. So if I'm not using this desktop, it's either in sleep mode or it's off because we pay a power bill here. And I am more than mildly concerned about the state of the environment. So unless I'm directly using this machine, it doesn't stay on. That's why I have the little low power box downstairs for doing stuff and leaving up. So we've got this, and this is the 8B model, and we can ask it the same question. In fact, I'm just going to ask it that, copy and paste it, and we can kind of watch it here. I'm going to see, I'll put up glances. I'm going to shrink that down because it's not really showing. Maybe H-top would be better. So you can see here, out of the CPUs on this thing, it's using quite a bit of them, but there's no GPU on this machine. Oop. And, oh, you know what? That's a feature. So it's giving me the program in Japanese, and that is because in this web interface here, you can tell it things. So if we go under settings, under your username icon here, you go under settings, you can go under personalization, and you have it remember things about you. So I told it, I'm studying Japanese, and I need to practice. And I saved that, they call it a memory, but it's basically, it's a fact. It's something it can know about you, right? And so I told it that, and I saved it. And so now it is trying to get me to practice Japanese. So
interesting.
Yeah. So that's doing that. Can you do that in English, maybe? Let's do this. Can you do that in English? And I'm going to stop. I feel this is slowing my system down. I'm going to stop this. It is heavy. I'm going to kill that. And let it compute there. Again, it is a little slower on this box. This is, like I said, this is running it's running other things too. So this box also is running some Podman containers. It's running the little Java application for my network, wireless network stuff. It's running Prometheus and Node Exporter. So it's doing other things. I will say this is RAM heavy. You can notice here I've got 64 gigs of RAM in this machine. The nice thing is RAM is a relatively cheap upgrade. If you're running it locally on a laptop, the 8B model, I would say 16 gigs is a bare minimum, especially if you're doing other things on that machine. I mean, bare minimum. I would really say 32. But I think 32 to 64 gigs of DDR4 or 5 SODIMMs are $100 or a little under, depending on what the economy does. So, I would say just stick that in your system. I run this on my MacBook Pro. My MacBook Pro's got an M2 Ultra, and it's just fine on there too. And so, yeah, here we go. Yeah, here it is. It's my initial response was in Japanese, and now they're asking if I can do it in English. So, yeah, the user seems to be learning Japanese, so it remembered that fact, or it queried that. Sam, is that you? Yes. You're muted, Sam. There we go.
Can you actually go in and inspect the large language models to compare them?
Not. That's the problem with large language models. They are black boxes. It's not like a database where you can query a database and it's always the same. Hey, I want this row and field, and it's going to return you that row or that field or that exact location. These are, in fact, getting the exact same response out of them every time isn't exactly easy. So no, but you can retrain them if you have a lot of compute, and that's kind of what I'm learning to do now. Is if you have a big enough graphics card, you can format data correctly and say, and OLLAMA supports this, where you can feed it this data and tell it, learn this for me, please, and then have it regurgitate that back out at you later.
So you can add that to the model?
Yep.
I see.
If you have enough compute, you aren't doing that on a, you aren't doing that on like a ThinkPad from 2012, but, I hope no one feels attacked over that comment. So, but you're going to have some significant compute investment. But, well, there you go. So we got our program, and then it gave it to me in Japanese and in English. I've tried using this as a language tutor, but it's not very consistent for me. Like I'll say, hey, my kanji is really starting to drift because I haven't been practicing a lot lately, but it'll keep throwing very sophisticated kanji at me, and I'm like, hey, can you tone it back a little bit? Can you maybe go down a level, because I need to remember some simpler stuff? And it's not good at that. It doesn't replace a teacher. It doesn't replace my online Jap. I have a website called italki.com where you can pay like $10 and have lessons from like a real person, and it doesn't replace that. So far it hasn't really replaced flashcards, but it's interesting that it remembered that fact and shot out the program in Japanese. So, but yeah, that's kind of the demo there. Are there any more questions about this? But yeah, this is running locally on my network. This just happened. This machine's just down in the basement on a shelf, connected into my switch down there. So it's this is all internal. Like I said, I could go cut the router off and plug it, and all of this would still work. I guess the nice, powerful thing about this is it really brings the tech closer to you, to where you can control it. You can have say over it. You can, you're not, a lot of the online models, again, I'm not trying to get political, but whoever, if someone comes into power that has a bias, they can pressure the companies to censor or pull data out of their model. I've got this model on my hard drive. Unless the feds raid my basement, which might happen one day, who knows? Anyway, this model is mine forever and ever. I can back it up, keep it. You can retrain it on data. It's really quite a powerful tool. So I'd never thought the Chinese startup of all things would be saving us from Silicon Valley monopolies, but here we are. Anyway, so any questions or comments?
Quite remarkable.
Yeah.
Remarkable. I got a question. You can ask it.
Sure.
What's the largest known Mersenne prime? MERSENNE.
MERSNE.
Prime.
Like that?
Prime number.
And it's going to fire it off here.
This would be a lot of fun to experiment with.
Yeah. Like I said, this is doable on this old of a machine here, but it's going to cook that up. We can have a race. I can fire up the local one here on my big desktop. And go to localhost. I had something else running on me. Yay! Okay, so we'll ask. We'll ask 32B what they think.
Okay.
There too. it could be a little slow to get going in the web interface here. That is a bug I've noticed. This web interface is perhaps a little bit buggy. Again, this is all very new stuff. If you do have issues with that, you can just drop out. Oop, I'm noticing my graphics card is not loving life right now. Trying to run Jitsi and do all that. I'm going to kill this process here. In fact, I'm just going to kill the model. Control C. There we go. All right. There we go. Get my stuff back. Okay, there you go. It's thinking. Or searching. But you can still, so you can do use a local.
Just so you know, for those that might be wanting to know what a Mersenne prime is, it's a prime number that's one less than a power of 2.
Well, it's going to explain that to you here, but yeah, so if the web interface is a little buggy for you, you can still run it through a terminal on a remote machine too, just like I was doing earlier. So you really have both options. The web interface is nice because it keeps a history. You can do the memory, the fact about yourself if you want help with certain things, or if it needs, it'll throw a curveball and throw a program at you in Japanese. So yeah.
Knows about the great internet Mersenne prime search, GIMPs.
Yep.
Knows about that.
When it supplies like additional information, like about your query, it kind of comes across a bit like mansplaining.
It kind of does. It's the problem I have with these. Like, so if you ask a person and a person is like, I think it's this, I don't know though. Like you can read their tone. An honest person will be like, I think it's this, but I'm not real sure. Don't quote me or something. They will give indications they aren't sure. This not only with the like kind of explaining things in more basic terms than maybe you were looking for. Yeah. It will also just be. It won't. It's confident whether it's wrong or not.
All right.
So,
I have a query that I'm curious. That's more like it's certainly something that's easy for a human with like any like cultural context. But I'm just wondering how it copes with this. Like, please explain the humor of, quote, thanks, Olama.
Thanks, Obama? Let's see.
No, thanks, Olama.
Okay.
Because again, it could look up thanks, Obama. But is it going to understand thanks, Olama as an offshoot of that?
And again, and this is where I think where the model was trained and what data it was have will impact. And since this was trained in China, ostensibly on Chinese data, it doesn't. I've noticed in Western contexts, popular culture context, it's missing some things. It's got holes in this knowledge. And I have had it. It really likes Python. It doesn't like other languages too much. I've tried to debug some C with it. I intentionally created a bug in a program I had from grad school, and it fired Python back out me as an improvement. And I was like, that's not really what I asked for.
Yeah, well, just to let you know, your model didn't even get close.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's kind of hinting on what it might be.
But it's not even close. It's not even in the ballpark.
Yeah, this is kind of what I was seeing. Again, I think thanks Obama, thanks Olama is kind of a Western internet thing, and it may not have the context there. We can ask Llama the same question. Let me start a new chat there. Let's start with Llama, and this is the Facebook model. Actually, let me just start a whole new one so I don't wreck this one. Can you explain the humor of thanks Llama? I'm not sure how well. There we go. Possibly a joke meme. However, yeah, I didn't find it either. Interesting. So, yeah, again, I'm not sure. I wonder here. It's bringing up something from Japanese. So I wonder if my Japanese factoid about myself is interfering with that. Do you think it sounds like thanks Obama? Maybe it'll call us a boomer because that's an old joke now. Yes. Okay. That's all it's gonna.
Yeah, I put the largest. I put the largest Mersenne prime in the chat for folks who want to know. It's like 2 to the 136,279,841 power minus 1. It's not even close to whatever it gave as an answer.
A question about how this is retrieving any answer at all to Dan's question of the largest number. It's really, is it not just retrieving a factoid, and it doesn't it just come down to whether or not it has encountered that question along with some human delivered answer
Right.
in its training. And so what interests me is the value of these things simply because of the massive data that they regurgitate in search mode.
That's exactly.
Then the other thing is the extent to which they can actually be logical in helping you jump to, say, a solution. There's two solutions in a way when we go online. One is you search for someone and you're reiterating what someone else has done, and you just search for the exact thing so you don't have to do it again. And the other is where you actually have to use logic to compose a solution, and you're only looking for a piece of the logic. And so one of my questions is, when you choose a model, do any of these things have what you might call a commentary, where the model has some synopsis of what it has been trained on? So you can say, well, I'm loading this model because it claims to have reviewed the text menus of every conceivable software, or in other words, how do you know what it's been exposed to? And shouldn't it come with the same way that a librarian would categorize the books in the library for a massive library? Shouldn't you at least have a general idea of what this library is wrong on? What is its forte as a collection of books?
So that's a massive problem in this right now, is attribution and sources, because again, the way these work, there's not a clear oh, I went here and pulled this off. It basically you expose a computer to something over and over and over again, and it keeps making bad choices, and then eventually it makes the right choice and goes the right way, and then it stores that solution. Is more or less how these work. And so it's just repeated, like running a program over, training these is just running a program over and over and over until it guesses the right thing, more or less. And it's not a database. There's not a way to, as far as I know, there's not a way for it to reference its sources. You can get it to actually, and I've seen it before. I've never managed to do it to verbatim regurgitate things, and that was that New York Times lawsuit against OpenAI a couple of years ago. Is that if you prompted a Chat GPT in the correct way, it would just flat out verbatim copy and paste New York Times articles, which that's a problem. That's copyright. The same thing, somebody got it to exactly replicate John Carmack's fast square root code from the Quake days. So you really, OpenAI is not really open on what they trained this model on or how they trained it. The nice thing about DeepSeek is they really released a paper, and they have all their training methods there, how they did it and everything, and how you can replicate it. And there's already people at Hugging Face trying to replicate this or have replicated it, their training methods. So I think this might lead to a solution to that problem eventually, because, again, Silicon Valley likes their commercialized black boxes, and to sell you something, whereas the open source community, I think, might, now that we have the methods that have been opened up to how this was trained and stuff, there may be a way to kind of a solution to that problem. So, but yeah, that is the problem, and there's no way to really know. If you get a commercial one, there's no way to really know what all data it was trained on, right? Copilot claimed it was just trained on GitHub code, which if you ever put code on GitHub, that means your code has been vacuumed into Microsoft's bot. But if you have it locally on your machine,